Hey guys, alright? Welcome everyone. We begin by seeing a man arriving in Spain, all excited to meet his family for the long-awaited vacation. His name is Will. His father, Martin, warmly welcomes him, and they start their journey to a boat that is waiting for them. On the way, Will's phone rings with a call from work, but he politely asks for a break, knowing his work calls often annoy his father. When they arrive at the destination, Will's mother, Lori, his brother Josh, and his girlfriend, Dara, greet him with big smiles. The whole family is super happy because they are eager to have a special dinner together. While sitting around the table, the two brothers talk about their childhood, where they moved a lot due to their father's job. Lori is very happy to have her family all together, and they make a toast to start the evening. However, the mood takes a playful turn when Josh brings up a funny incident from Will's past, making everyone laugh a lot. But this joyful moment is suddenly interrupted when Will receives a worrying call. He looks very serious, and sadness spreads to everyone around. Finally, he opens up to his family and shares the sad news about his company going bankrupt. Everyone falls silent as Will thinks about what will happen next. He then steps away to be alone for a bit. Later, after dinner, Will tries to make amends with his father for spoiling the happy mood earlier and apologizes for the difficult situation he is in. In a heartfelt conversation, Martin also apologizes to Will, understanding how hard this is for his son. The next day, the family is at sea, but Will is glued to his phone, which rings constantly. He reluctantly helps guide the boat until they finally anchor. But Will can't stop thinking about his phone, leading to some tension when Martin urgently asks him to take control of the boat. At this moment, a fast boat comes dangerously close to their yacht, and Will doesn't notice the danger. The lack of focus causes the boat to drift aimlessly because of the wind. Martin panics and yells at him in time, so he manages to avoid a bad accident that could have hurt Dara. In the middle of this chaos, Will's phone rings again, but Martin throws it into the ocean without hesitation. This makes them argue, and Will makes a bold decision. He jumps into the sea and starts swimming towards the city to try and find some peace. As his emotions boil, he quickly stops at the pharmacy to buy antiseptic for Dara's wound and then decides to have a drink to quench his thirst. While he was on the shore looking at the vast ocean, Martin started to feel uneasy. The same high-speed boat passed again, making him even more worried. After a short period, Will returned to the beach but didn't see the family yacht anywhere. He tried to ask the locals for help on the sandy beach, but they spoke quickly in Spanish, and he couldn't understand them. Determined, he entered the sea and approached a group of young people, hoping they could help him. But unfortunately, his words are not understood by anyone. Will felt a growing fear in his heart, thinking that maybe his family had mistakenly left him behind. He walked along the coast to the top of a hill to get a better view. Near sunset, he sees the yacht drifting alone. As he approached and boarded, he realized something was very wrong because the boat had no power and his family had disappeared. Feeling desperate, Will went to the local police station for help. Inside, he found officers playing cards and not paying him much attention. This made him even more frustrated. Finally, he managed to tell his problem to the station captain, who, upon hearing Will's name, made a phone call. The captain now seemed very worried and told Will to show where the stranded yacht was. It's now early evening, and the officers and Will set out to find the family boat, but along the way, a stranger emerges, saying he knows Will and promised to help him find his family. Will suspected something and tried to flee, but the officers stopped him, and he had to fight. Eventually, Will managed to break free and escaped from the place. He took a police car and drove away at high speed through the night, with the officers chasing him. The chase continued until the officers cornered Will, causing him to crash the stolen car. They began beating him severely. When it seemed there was no hope, Martin suddenly appears and quickly defeats the attackers, saving his son. When Will wakes up, he is with his father inside a car heading to the city. He asks Martin where Josh and his mother were, but his father doesn't know their whereabouts. With a heavy heart, he revealed a big secret, that he was actually a CIA agent. He believed that something from his past had come back to haunt them and put his family in danger. He kept apologizing, each time sounding more sincere, promising to reunite his family in a calm voice. He received a call on his phone, a message from his secret CIA contact saying to meet secretly. Martin didn't share many details but took Will to one of his safe houses, a place where they could hide from the approaching troubles. As time passed, Martin told Will to take him to a rendezvous point where his team leader, Weaver, was waiting. They didn't know that a silent sniper was preparing with a rifle at that meeting point. Will and Martin arrived at the location, and Martin told his son to stay in the car, but before leaving, he shared his feelings, telling Will how proud he was of the wonderful son he had become. Martin went to Weaver, feeling suspicious and wondering if she had planned this dangerous situation. The truth came out when Martin explained that the guys from whom they took the briefcase had kidnapped his family and were threatening to hurt them if they didn't return the briefcase within 24 hours. Weaver, however, said that the briefcase had disappeared, leaving Martin searching for a solution. As Martin returned to the car with a heavy heart, suddenly, a sniper shot him, and he didn't survive. Will, overwhelmed with shock and sadness, crawled to his fallen father, mourning his loss. The ruthless sniper Gorman saw another chance and aimed his weapon at Will, but Will managed to grab Martin's gun and phone in time. Driven by desperation, he fled before Gorman and his men could close in. As he ran for his life, Will found a police officer, but the officer, seeing Will with a gun, pointed his weapon at him, ready to arrest him. But before things could get worse, Gorman acted quickly and shot the officer. Will shot Gorman, but then more officers arrived. Will fled again, running desperately until he reached a high fence. With his last breath, he jumped over it and found safety in a nearby park. As he ran through the streets, a mounted police officer saw him and started chasing him. Will ran quickly and managed to evade the officer. He found a safe place in a public restroom, trying to catch his breath and understand everything that had just happened. After calming down, he returned to the busy streets, trying to hide his identity using a cap and sunglasses he picked up somewhere. Then he decided to get rid of the gun. Next, he cleverly threw himself into the United States Embassy to be arrested. Inside the embassy, Will told an officer about his father's tragic death and his family's dangerous situation, but the officer didn't believe him and suggested he get a lawyer. While they were talking, the officer's phone rang, indicating a conversation related to Will. Disheartened, Will left the embassy and saw Weaver waiting in her car. She said she was a friend of Martin's and seemed to know a lot about Will, even though he was young. Although hesitant, Will eventually gave in to her convincing words because she promised to help save his family. As the car started to move, Weaver began asking questions about Martin's connections to the mysterious briefcase. Will started to suspect that Weaver might not be a friend, so he pretended to feel like vomiting, and as soon as Weaver stopped the car, Will tricked her and ran, disappearing into the busy streets. He caught a bus and put more distance between him and the city, all while holding Martin's phone. The phone kept ringing, and it was the same man calling again. Will's heart sank when he heard his mother's voice, desperately asking to speak to Martin. In a painful moment, Will had to tell his mother that his father had died, and she started to cry. But the man on the other end of the line didn't care about her pain, he still wanted the mysterious briefcase. Determined, Will contacted a friend of his father's named Diego. He arranged to meet Diego's niece, Lucia, at his office. When he arrived at the address, Will was ready for trouble before meeting Lucia, who seemed nervous. But then Weaver's agent appeared, and Lucia attacked him with a knife. This gave Will the chance to join the fight and confront his enemy. During the fight, Will fatally injured his opponent, killing him. Lucia, still on edge from the fight, pointed her gun at Will, thinking he might be a threat to Diego. But Will quickly explained the dangerous situation and asked Lucia for help to find Diego. She reluctantly agreed, and they went to Diego's apartment. As they approached his door, they saw that the entrance was open. Will, preparing for trouble, took his gun and carefully entered. There he found Diego's lifeless body on the floor and held Lucia close. He tried to keep her quiet and not let her cries worsen the already tense situation. He heard a faint sound coming from the kitchen and went to see what it was. To his surprise, Weaver and Gorman were there, fueled by anger and desperation. Will pointed his gun at them and demanded answers about his father's death. Weaver calmly explained that Martin had considered returning the mysterious briefcase to their enemies, which was why he had to be eliminated. Weaver offered to help Will find his family, but there was a condition: she wanted to know about Martin's other connections related to the valuable briefcase. Suddenly, Lucia burst into the room, furiously shooting her gun. Then she and Will ran upstairs to escape the gunfire, but Weaver and Gorman followed them. They reached the roof, where they realized there was no way down. In a bold move, Will devised a plan. He tied a rope around Lucia and started lowering her, but Gorman shot him in the rib. Lucia found safety with a stranger who helped her, while Will jumped off the building tied to an antenna cable, narrowly avoiding the bullets and eventually falling to the ground, injured. Lucia picked him up on her motorcycle, and they fled, blending into the crowd. Will's condition was worsening, but they couldn't stop. Weaver caught up with them and managed to knock them down in the street. Just as Weaver was about to take a fatal shot, a group of people blocked her view, giving Lucia and Will another chance to escape. Lucia took Will to a nightclub, where she asked a friend with medical skills for help. At first, her friend hesitated, but Lucia pleaded, and eventually, her acquaintance agreed and called others to assist. They examined Will's wound but didn't find a bullet, so they had to use a drastic measure to stop the bleeding, causing Will to pass out after the procedure. Moments later, Will woke up still in pain, and while Lucia was looking through his phone, she found a photo of Martin and was shocked when Will confirmed that he was dead. Then Lucia revealed that she also knew Martin, but she called him Tom. Lucia revealed that Martin was her father, making her Will's half-sister. Both took a train to the place where the briefcase exchange was supposed to happen. Will was still trying to process the fact that Martin had a secret life. He decided to go alone, and Lucia understood. She said she would be waiting at the nightclub, ready to help if needed. They said goodbye, and Will left alone. When Will arrived at the location, he carefully looked around to see if he could find his contact. A mysterious man suddenly appeared beside him and told him to act normally and follow him. Will was cautious but did as he was told, following the man to a car and sitting in the front seat. He was eager to get information about his family and kept asking questions, but the man reacted quickly and violently. He grabbed Will's neck and choked him until he passed out. When Will woke up, he was tied to a chair and was being repeatedly punched while desperately trying to convince his captors that Martin was dead. To his surprise, the leader, Zahir, revealed himself as a rogue agent. It turned out that the mysterious briefcase was part of a complicated plan to expose a corrupt CIA agent. Martin and the CIA had fired their undercover agent and taken the briefcase as part of this plan. Will told Zahir that Martin had become a victim of the CIA and the KX's schemes. They were trying to erase all evidence and witnesses of their complicated and deceitful plans. Zahir then revealed the painful reality that Will's family was still being held hostage, and their safety depended on the fact that they were captives. Zahir was determined to confront Weaver and save Will's family. He insisted that Will should lure Weaver out before the secret sale of the briefcase and threatened to hand over Will's family to the CIA if he failed. Again, Will was overpowered, choked, and thrown out of the car, along with a gun, on the outskirts of the city. He returned to Lucia's cozy nightclub, where they were happy to see each other again. They teamed up and planned a strategy to lure Weaver into the open. While quietly discussing their plan, the nightclub owner, who was loyal to Diego, overheard them and offered help. Lucia had a clever idea. She used her card to buy drinks and leave a digital trail, hoping Weaver would fall into their trap. In just a few minutes, Gorman appeared at the nightclub, but the clever shop owner and his friends quickly recognized him, and a fight between them began. Gorman is a skilled fighter, but they finally managed to overpower him after using a taser. They took Gorman to the nightclub's basement and began a harsh interrogation. Will wanted to know where the briefcase was and when the secret exchange would take place, but Gorman remained silent. Enraged, Will brutally attacked Gorman and ordered the men to punish him further. After the severe beating, Will and the others left Gorman alone, but they left him with a means to escape, hoping this would lead them to Weaver. Lucia was behind the wheel of a car waiting, while they watched Gorman somehow free himself and escape. Gorman stole a car and fled at high speed, not realizing he was being followed. Moments later, Gorman entered an alley where he met with Weaver, and they quickly left, with Will closely following. They arrived at an underground parking area, and Will asked Lucia to stay in the car while he followed them further. Will observed from a distance as Weaver talked with the potential buyers in the parking lot. Suddenly, everything was exposed when Zahir and his group arrived, telling Will to step back and surrender. Will shouted, demanding to know where his family was being held, but the noise reached Weaver, and she, suspicious, killed the buyers. The situation became even more dangerous when the agents began shooting in all directions. Amidst all the chaos, Gorman secured the mysterious briefcase and fled in a car. Determined to recover it, Will pursued him on foot. He soon caught up with Gorman, and they had a struggle inside the vehicle for the valuable item. During their fight, one of Zahir's agents intervened and shot Gorman. Will fell along with the briefcase, and Lucia in her car collided with Gorman's car, causing a violent crash. Gorman, gravely injured, mentioned how surprised he was that Will was the one to end his life. Weaver arrived in her car and went towards the abandoned briefcase on the ground, shooting at Will and forcing him to seek cover. She then got out and grabbed the briefcase, and after seeing Gorman dead nearby, she scolded Will, calling him an amateur, and then sped away. Will and Lucia began pursuing her relentlessly, but Weaver knew they were behind her, and a high-speed chase ensued. Weaver tried to escape by driving through a park, but Will was determined to catch her. As he got closer, Weaver started shooting at him. Will didn't give up, but thinking of something, he pulled back for a moment. Weaver thought she had lost them, but then got stuck in traffic. What she didn't know was that Will had spotted her. He drove straight towards her, causing a big crash into a nearby store. A crowd gathered, and Weaver got out of the car and started shooting, not only at Will but also at innocent people. With much effort, Will and Lucia took control of another car and fled, with Weaver still pursuing them relentlessly. They crashed their cars into each other, and both consequently ended up flipping. Weaver, holding the valuable briefcase, got out and approached Will and Lucia, who were struggling to move. In a tense moment, Will tried to reach for his gun, but Weaver taunted him, and as she was about to shoot him, suddenly a shot hit her fatally. Zahir and his agents appeared and quickly ensured that Will, Lucia, and the valuable briefcase were safe. Leading the way, Zahir guided Will to a very important reunion with his family, whom he thought he had lost forever. On the way, Zahir said something surprising. He admitted that even though Martin had a mysterious past, he would be proud of Will for being so strong. Their reunion was emotional, crying with joy and hugging, and this strengthened the family's broken bonds even more. The next day, they visited Lucia in the hospital, where Lori and Josh welcomed her as part of the family. Their brief period of peace didn't last long. An unknown agent approached Will and gave him a passport, offering him a way to go back home where it was safe. Will was still curious about what was inside the briefcase, but the officer didn't give a direct answer. Instead, he hinted that to find out more, Will would need to get more involved with the CIA.